The mornings had settled into a rhythm as predictable as the sunrise over the Blue Ridge Mountains. I would wake before dawn, the house still cloaked in shadows, and prepare coffee that brewed slowly, filling the air with its rich aroma. The smell often served as a reminder of the life I had built, a life that now felt more like a series of tasks than a vibrant existence. The days blended into one another, punctuated only by the mundane, laundry, grocery lists, and the occasional attempt to spark conversation with my husband over dinner. In our small-town Asheville home, nestled among colorful galleries and bustling cafes, I often felt invisible. My husband was consumed by work, his office filled with papers and projects that seemed to take precedence over everything else. Our conversations dwindled to logistics, who would pick up groceries or what time dinner would be ready. I was trapped in a loop of routine, my voice barely rising above the clatter of daily life. Then came an unexpected disruption, a visit from my stepson. He arrived on a Friday evening, his presence filling the house with an energy that had long been absent. The moment he stepped through the door, I felt a flicker of something I hadn't experienced in years, excitement. He was no longer that boy I remembered, he had grown into a man with an easy smile and laughter that echoed through our quiet home. I prepared dinner while he chatted animatedly with his father in the living room. As I stirred the pot on the stove, I caught snippets of their conversation, stories about work and travel plans, but my mind wandered elsewhere. My stepson's laughter resonated within me like music from a distant past when joy seemed effortless. Dinner was laid out on the table, roasted chicken, fresh vegetables from the local market, and a bottle of wine that had been gathering dust in our cabinet. We settled around the table, 3 plates set against an expanse of silence that had become all too familiar. My husband spoke about his week while my stepson occasionally chimed in with humor or insight. Yet beneath it all lay an undercurrent of tension, an electric hum that thrummed between us. As we ate, I noticed how my stepson's eyes sparkled when he laughed or shared a story. It sent ripples through me, memories of passion from my youth resurfacing like old songs long forgotten. I found myself stealing glances at him across the table, each look felt charged with unspoken words and hidden desires. He caught my gaze once or twice, his expression shifting slightly as if sensing something beyond mere familial affection. The meal passed slowly, time seemed to stretch within those walls where silence often reigned supreme. Afterward, we cleared the table together, a clinking of plates and silverware that felt like an unintentional dance between us. He reached for a dish just as I did, our hands brushed lightly against each other's skin for a fleeting moment that sent warmth coursing through me. I could hardly focus on what my husband was saying as he recounted some trivial detail about work, a monotonous drone against this newfound awareness enveloping me like fog rolling down from those mountains outside our window. The conversation faded into background noise while thoughts spiraled around this unexpected attraction, a feeling both exhilarating and terrifying. When we finally settled into the living room for what should have been a casual evening together, I could feel it intensifying, the tension hanging thick in the air like humidity before a storm. My husband flipped through channels absent-mindedly while my stepson sat across from me on another couch, his presence magnetic yet disconcerting. "Do you remember hiking up Craggy Gardens last summer?" he asked suddenly, breaking through my reverie. "Yes," I replied softly, recalling how vibrant those trails were, the wildflowers bursting with color against lush greenery, and how alive I had felt then compared to now. "I'd love to go again," he continued casually but looked at me with an intensity that made it hard to breathe for just a moment too long. My heart raced as we exchanged memories, each recollection weaving threads deeper into this uncharted territory between us. The evening wore on, laughter-filled spaces where silence used to dwell until eventually it became too late for any pretense of normalcy. As night draped itself over Asheville like a comforting blanket, we retreated to our separate rooms, my husband heading upstairs while my stepson made himself comfortable on the couch for what would be his temporary stay. Alone in my own space now, Thoughts swirled chaotically around this new dynamic unfolding before me, a secret yearning simmering beneath layers of expectation and obligation. I lay awake long after darkness enveloped everything outside, my mind racing back to stolen glances during dinner and accidental touches in passing moments throughout our evening together. Each memory replayed vividly behind closed eyes brought forth questions about choices made long ago, the path chosen versus one left unexplored. In those quiet hours before dawn broke once more across Asheville's skyline, uncertainty settled heavily upon me like dew on grass, refreshing yet suffocating at once, as if whispering reminders of passions buried deep within waiting to be unearthed again amidst mundane routines threatening to drown them out completely. The next morning greeted us with golden sunlight streaming through windows, a stark contrast to shadows lurking just beneath surface. Smiles exchanged over breakfast preparations filled with nervous energy coursing between us, all too palpable now after last night's revelations lingered still unspoken yet ever present among us three, gathered around this table once more. I caught myself stealing another glance at him over pancakes piled high, his laughter ringing out effortlessly while I struggled within myself, battling conflicting emotions brewing inside, threatening everything familiar yet beckoning towards something unknown beyond these walls enclosing me so tightly, suffocatingly safe yet stifling nonetheless. And there it was, the moment suspended in time where everything shifted ever so slightly as our eyes met again across syrup-soaked plates filled with breakfast memories waiting patiently beneath layers upon layers, yearning desperately for release. The laughter lingered in the air, a melody that danced around us, teasing the silence that had filled my days for far too long. I could hardly focus on the pancakes or the coffee that had grown cold in my cup. Instead, my thoughts were drawn to him, the way his smile lit up the room, how his presence felt like a breath of fresh air in my stagnant life. As we cleared the table, our hands brushed against each other while reaching for the same dish. The brief contact sent a jolt through me, igniting a spark I desperately tried to suppress. I pulled back quickly, pretending to focus on stacking plates, but my heart raced with an unfamiliar thrill. "Want to go for a walk later?" he asked casually, as if suggesting a simple outing was nothing more than routine. "Sure," I replied, trying to keep my tone light while battling the storm inside me. My mind raced with possibilities. What would it be like? Would we talk about mundane things? Or was there something deeper lurking beneath the surface? The rest of the day passed in a blur of ordinary tasks, laundry folded with precision, dishes washed and put away, and moments stolen where we exchanged glances that spoke volumes more than words ever could. Each interaction felt charged with an energy I hadn't experienced in years, a dangerous game of unspoken attraction playing out between us. Later that afternoon, we found ourselves outside on the porch. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm glow over everything, an idyllic scene marred only by my inner turmoil. He leaned against the railing, looking out over the backyard filled with wildflowers swaying gently in the breeze. "Isn't it beautiful here?" he mused softly. "Yes," I replied, though my heart was heavy with conflicting emotions. "It really is." In that moment, laughter bubbled up from somewhere deep within me as he recounted an amusing story from his childhood, a tale of mischief involving his father and a runaway dog. His laughter was infectious. I found myself leaning closer without even realizing it. Then came another accidental touch. His arm brushed against mine as he gestured animatedly about some silly incident involving his friends back home. The warmth radiating from him ignited something within me that I had buried for too long. "Do you remember when we went hiking last summer?" he asked suddenly, breaking through my reverie. "Yes," I said slowly, recalling how those moments felt like freedom, just him and me under an expansive sky where worries faded into insignificance. "I wish we could do that again," he said wistfully. "Maybe we can," I suggested impulsively before I could second-guess myself. His gaze locked onto mine with an intensity that made my heart race again, a silent understanding passing between us as if we were both aware of this undercurrent pulling us closer together despite all reason telling us to step back. As evening descended upon us and shadows lengthened across the porch floorboards, our conversation took on a more intimate tone. We shared secrets and dreams. Every word seemed to draw us nearer until there was no denying what lingered unspoken between us. Suddenly caught up in this moment of vulnerability and connection, I leaned closer still until our faces were mere inches apart, my breath catching as our eyes locked once more. And then it happened, a moment so unexpected yet inevitable. Our lips met briefly but electrifyingly before reality crashed down around us like thunder after lightning strikes. Shock coursed through me as I pulled away instantly. He looked equally stunned by what had just transpired between us. "I'm sorry," I stammered breathlessly as confusion swirled within me like autumn leaves caught in a whirlwind. "No, don't be," he murmured cautiously but earnestly. There was no judgment etched upon his face, only surprise mingled with something else altogether. A silence enveloped us then, thick with tension yet charged with possibility, as both of us grappled silently with what had just occurred. My mind raced through all potential outcomes. Guilt flooded in alongside exhilaration at having crossed this line so carelessly yet so profoundly. I stepped back from him instinctively. Fear clawed at me now more than ever before. I had ventured too far into dangerous territory where nothing would ever be simple again. The next few days blurred into one another, a haze of stolen moments filled with quiet glances and lingering touches whenever no one else was watching. Each encounter felt like walking a tightrope suspended over uncertainty. One misstep could unravel everything familiar while offering glimpses into what lay beyond those boundaries held so tightly around me for years. I found myself daydreaming during mundane tasks, the laundry folding becoming less about chores and more about imagining walks shared under starlit skies or whispers exchanged beneath trees laden with memories waiting patiently for release. But guilt gnawed at me relentlessly. Every time our hands brushed or laughter echoed between us rang hollow beneath its weight. The knowledge that these feelings were not just innocent crushes but something deeper threatening to disrupt everything around us loomed large over every interaction shared. Then came another chance encounter one afternoon when we found ourselves alone again, inexplicably drawn together once more amidst familiar surroundings tinged now with uncharted territory fraught with tension begging to be explored further. "What's going on between us?" he finally asked quietly after several moments spent lost in each other's gaze yet again, the question hanging heavily between us like fog rolling into town unexpectedly late at night obscuring everything familiar beyond recognition. "I don't know," I admitted honestly, uncertainty clouding my thoughts even as desire tugged insistently at my heartstrings urging me towards something unknown yet tantalizingly close enough to reach out for if only courage would allow it. Inwardly wrestling against fears threatening to hold me back from pursuing this connection forged amidst chaos surrounding our lives, I took a deep breath, steeling myself against doubts swirling relentlessly around already fragile foundations built upon years spent navigating silence instead of true intimacy. And then it happened again. Our lips met once more briefly, yet this time infused with urgency fueled by emotions boiling beneath surfaces long kept hidden away. The world outside my window blurred into a wash of greens and browns as I lost myself in thought. The mundane tasks of the day faded into the background, replaced by the echo of our last encounter. Our lips met, a fleeting moment that ignited something deep within me, left me both exhilarated and terrified. How had I allowed myself to cross that line? Each stolen kiss felt like a secret rebellion against the life I had built. As I washed the dishes, my hands moved automatically, but my mind wandered. I imagined his laughter, the way his eyes sparkled when he shared a joke, how easy it was to talk to him. No longer just my stepson, he had become a mirror reflecting everything I felt was missing in my life, a sense of connection that had long since faded from my marriage. I shook my head as if trying to dispel these thoughts. Guilt flooded through me, intertwining with desire. How could I betray the vows I had made? Yet, every time he entered the room, it was as if an electric current surged through the air between us, pulling me closer despite my better judgment. Later that evening, we found ourselves alone in the living room while my husband prepared dinner in the kitchen. The air thickened with unspoken words as we exchanged glances filled with meaning. He sat on the edge of his seat, his body language betraying an eagerness I could no longer ignore. "What are you thinking?" he asked suddenly, breaking the silence. "Just about life," I replied nonchalantly, though my heart raced at his proximity. He leaned slightly closer. "Life can be complicated sometimes." "Yeah," I murmured, caught off guard by how easily our conversation flowed now. It felt like a dance, one where we both knew our steps yet hesitated to take them fully. As if drawn by an invisible thread, our hands brushed against each other while reaching for a shared bowl of popcorn on the coffee table. My breath caught in my throat at the warmth radiating from his skin. The moment lingered longer than it should have before we pulled away awkwardly. I wanted to flee from this tension but found myself rooted in place as he shifted closer again. "You know," he said softly, "I've always admired you." My heart raced at his words, an acknowledgement that sent shivers down my spine. "Why?" I managed to ask, though part of me feared what he might say next. "Because you're strong and passionate about everything you do." His gaze held mine steadily. I could feel vulnerability creeping into my chest like a slow tide washing over a shore, both terrifying and liberating at once. "Thank you," I whispered back, unsure how to navigate this newfound intimacy between us. But then reality crashed back and like thunder rolling across stormy skies, guilt clawed at me again fiercely. This wasn't right. My husband was just down the hall, could I really allow this connection to deepen? That night after dinner, when everyone retired for bed except me, I lingered downstairs staring out into darkness beyond our window panes while wrestling with conflicting emotions swirling inside me like leaves caught in an autumn gust. In those quiet moments alone with myself, the weight of unfulfilled dreams pressed heavily upon my chest. I began questioning everything. Was it too late for me? Was there still time for passion and joy? The next morning dawned bright and clear. Sunlight streamed through our kitchen window illuminating every corner of the room where memories lingered like ghosts haunting an old house. My husband hummed softly as he prepared breakfast, a familiar tune that echoed through years spent together yet felt distant now. As we sat around the table sharing mundane conversations about work and plans for upcoming weekends, I couldn't shake off thoughts drifting back toward him again, the magnetic pull drawing me closer even amidst laughter exchanged between us all. Later that afternoon while running errands downtown, visiting local shops bursting with color and creativity, I stumbled upon an art gallery showcasing vibrant paintings capturing moments frozen in time, a reflection of emotions yearning to break free just like mine did every time I glanced at him. And then there he was unexpectedly standing beside me admiring one piece depicting lovers entwined beneath blooming cherry blossoms, a scene so beautiful it almost hurt to look at it too long without feeling something shift within myself again. "What do you think?" he asked quietly breaking through my reverie, his voice low yet filled with curiosity about what lay beneath surface appearances surrounding us both now. "It's stunning," came out before realizing how charged those words sounded hanging between us, a truth neither dared vocalize openly yet remained palpable nonetheless. We stood side by side absorbing art meant for lovers' eyes only, yet here we were sharing this moment together alone. "I wish," he paused hesitantly before continuing softly enough barely audible above bustling sounds outside filtering through open doorway nearby, "that love didn't have so many complications." His words struck deep resonating within parts untouched by time or routine until now, longing mingled with fear creating an intoxicating blend overwhelming senses leaving little room for rational thought anymore. Before either could think better of it again, our fingers intertwined almost instinctively like two souls finding home amid chaos surrounding them. In that instant filled with promise unspoken yet understood, we took another step forward crossing boundaries set long ago without hesitation despite looming consequences lingering just outside reach waiting patiently. But reality intruded once more when suddenly footsteps echoed approaching nearby reminding us both where we stood currently tethered between worlds divided by choices made previously. I pulled away abruptly, feeling breathless, searching desperately for grounding amidst swirling uncertainties threatening sanity itself, all while knowing full well this connection couldn't be ignored any longer without dire repercussions looming ahead. As evening settled across Asheville, painting skies orange-pink hues blending beautifully overhead, I found myself standing alone on porch gazing out toward mountains rising majestically beyond city limits, beckoning adventure unknown waiting patiently just out of sight. Perhaps escaping would bring clarity, or maybe only further complicate tangled webs woven throughout lives lived thus far. Yet deep down inside flickered hope, igniting spark daring enough, whispering truths long buried beneath layers built over years spent navigating silence, instead true intimacy, the very essence craved most desperately, now calling louder than ever before. The mountains loomed ahead, their majestic peaks cloaked in a shroud of mist. The car hummed along the winding road, the sound of tires on asphalt mingling with the distant call of birds. I stared out the window, watching the trees rush by, their vibrant greens a stark contrast to the dullness that had crept into my life. My husband chatted about the sights we'd see, but his words faded into the background, drowned out by my swirling thoughts. As we approached our cabin, nestled among towering pines, I felt a mix of anticipation and dread. The trip was meant to rekindle our connection, to escape from the routine that had suffocated us for far too long. Yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that this getaway might only intensify the unspoken bond one had formed with my stepson during his visit. Once inside, my husband busied himself unpacking while I wandered around, taking in the rustic charm of our surroundings. The scent of pine filled the air as sunlight filtered through the windows, casting playful shadows on the wooden floors. I tried to shake off my unease and focus on what lay ahead, a weekend away from everyday distractions. The first evening unfolded with a sense of normalcy. We shared dinner on the porch, laughter mingling with the sounds of nature surrounding us. My husband spoke animatedly about hiking trails and scenic overlooks while I nodded along, forcing a smile as my mind drifted elsewhere. The memory of stolen glances and fleeting touches lingered like a ghost at my side. After dinner, as dusk settled over the mountains, we gathered around a fire pit outside. Flames danced in front of us, illuminating faces filled with warmth and familiarity. Yet beneath that warmth lay an undercurrent of tension that crackled in the air, an electric charge that neither my husband nor I could quite articulate. "Let's play a game," my husband suggested after a few moments of silence stretched between us. "Sure," I replied absent-mindedly while stealing a glance at my stepson seated across from me. The flickering light cast shadows across his features, accentuating an intensity in his gaze that made my heart race unexpectedly. As we played charades under twinkling stars, laughter erupted around us like fireworks lighting up the night sky. But even amidst joy and camaraderie, there was an undeniable heaviness weighing down on me, an awareness that something significant was brewing beneath our surface interactions. Later that night, as we retreated inside after extinguishing our fire's glow, a storm rolled in unexpectedly. Thunder rumbled ominously above us while rain began to patter against windows like an insistent whisper urging for attention. My husband flipped through channels on television while I stood by the window watching raindrops race each other down glass panes. The storm felt symbolic, chaotic yet cleansing, and somehow mirrored what churned within me, confusion mingled with desire. "Looks like we're stuck here for a while," he said casually without looking up from his screen. I turned away from the window to face him and offered an absent smile before retreating to our bedroom where silence enveloped me like a comforting blanket against uncertainty. Moments later came soft footsteps behind me. It was my stepson seeking refuge from thunder's growl outside. "Mind if I join you?" he asked hesitantly. "Of course not," I replied automatically as he settled onto a chair across from me, a barrier between us yet so easily crossed if only one dared to take that step forward. The storm raged outside, wind howled through trees while lightning illuminated shadows dancing across walls, a reminder of how unpredictable life could be when least expected. We exchanged small talk about childhood memories shared during family gatherings, the kind where laughter echoed loudly enough to drown out any underlying tension lingering unspoken between us. Each word felt like stepping closer towards something uncharted territory, a bridge built upon vulnerability rather than safety nets designed for comfort alone. Then came an unexpected lull in conversation. Silence wrapped around us tightly until it became palpable, the air thickening with unsaid emotions yearning for release or recognition perhaps. "I'm glad you're here," he finally said, quietly breaking through stillness enveloping room, a simple statement carrying weight beyond mere words spoken aloud amidst chaos raging outside our sanctuary within these four walls. I met his gaze fully now, those eyes reflecting not just curiosity but something deeper waiting patiently beneath surface layers built over time spent together navigating familial bonds forged through love yet strained by complexities woven throughout lives lived thus far. Suddenly thunder crashed overhead, shaking foundations beneath feet planted firmly within this moment shared together. My heart raced wildly as realization dawned upon me. This connection could no longer remain hidden behind closed doors nor brushed aside under layers built over years spent navigating silence. Instead, true intimacy craved most desperately, now calling louder than ever before. "We should talk," he murmured softly, breaking spellbinding tension hanging heavily between us. A suggestion laced with possibilities, igniting flickers, hope, daring enough whisper truths long buried beneath layers built over time spent together navigating familial bonds forged through love yet strained by complexities woven throughout lives lived thus far. Before another word could escape, lips parted slightly between breaths shared, neither knowing exactly where conversation would lead nor how far down path ventured together might take us. It felt exhilarating yet terrifying all at once. Perhaps escaping would bring clarity, or maybe only further complicate tangled webs woven throughout lives lived thus far. But there was no turning back now. Whatever awaited beyond doorways opened wide, beckoned. Courage needed. Face fears head-on rather than hide behind facades crafted carefully over time spent lost within routines designed shield hearts fragile beneath surfaces polished bright enough reflect light without, revealing shadows lurking just beyond reach. And so we spent more than just moments together. We spent hours entwined within conversations exploring depths unknown until finally surrendering vulnerability laid bare, revealing truths long silenced buried deep beneath layers built over time spent navigating silence. Instead, true intimacy craved most desperately, now calling louder than ever before. The morning light spilled through the curtains, illuminating the room in a soft glow. I lay there, tangled in thoughts, the weight of the previous night pressing heavily on my chest. The storm outside had mirrored the chaos within me, and I couldn't shake off the feeling that things were shifting in ways I couldn't control. I glanced over at my husband, still asleep beside me. His face was peaceful, unaware of the turmoil swirling in my mind. Memories of whispered conversations and shared laughter with my stepson danced behind my eyelids. Those moments felt like a lifeline thrown to me amidst my suffocating routine. But now, they felt like a dangerous game, one that could unravel everything I had known. The house was quiet except for the distant sound of rain tapping against the window. I slipped out of bed and padded softly to the kitchen, hoping to find solace in a cup of coffee. As I brewed it, I thought about how different life could be if only I had the courage to embrace change. The aroma filled the air as I poured myself a steaming cup. Sipping it slowly, I leaned against the counter and closed my eyes for just a moment. The taste was familiar yet comforting, much like my marriage had once been before it became a series of unremarkable days strung together. Suddenly, the door creaked open behind me, and I turned to see my stepson entering the kitchen. He looked disheveled yet charming in his casual attire, his hair tousled from sleep. A spark ignited within me at his presence. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. "Morning," he said with a sleepy smile that sent warmth flooding through me. "Morning," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady as our eyes met briefly before darting away. We stood there for a moment in silence, an unspoken tension hanging between us like thick fog. It wasn't just his presence that stirred something deep inside, It was also what we had shared, the stolen glances and accidental touches that lingered longer than they should have. "I hope you don't mind," he said suddenly, breaking the silence as he reached for a mug from the cabinet. "I thought maybe we could go for a hike later." "Just you and me?" My heart raced at his suggestion. The mountains called out to me like an old friend offering escape from reality, a chance to explore not only nature but also this new dynamic between us. "Sure," I managed to say while suppressing a smile that threatened to break free. As we sipped our coffee together, small talk flowed easily between us despite the weight of what lingered beneath our words. We discussed plans for later while navigating around what remained unsaid, the undeniable connection that seemed to grow stronger with each passing moment. But as laughter bubbled up between us over shared memories from past family gatherings, doubt crept into my mind again like an unwelcome guest. What would happen if anyone found out? Would they understand? Or would they condemn us without hesitation? Just then, footsteps echoed down the hallway. My husband emerged from their bedroom with sleep still etched on his face but determination in his stride. He greeted us with a warm smile before heading toward the coffee maker. "Good morning. What's on your agenda today?" he asked cheerfully as he poured himself a cup. "Just going for a hike," my stepson replied casually while stealing another glance at me that sent shivers down my spine. "Oh. That sounds nice." My husband seemed genuinely pleased but unaware of how charged this simple outing felt now. "You two enjoy yourselves." As he moved back toward their room to get dressed, an unsettling feeling settled deep within me, a reminder of how fragile this balance was becoming. My heart raced as thoughts spiraled. Could we really navigate this without causing harm? After breakfast concluded with more light banter than usual, an attempt by all three of us to mask underlying tensions, I excused myself under pretense of needing fresh air before our hike began. Outside on the porch overlooking lush greenery kissed by raindrops glistening in sunlight's embrace, I breathed deeply trying to ground myself amidst uncertainty brewing inside. Then came an unexpected sound. A voice drifting through open windows nearby caught my attention. It was my husband speaking animatedly on his phone about work matters but then shifting suddenly into something else entirely. A conversation laced with concern over family dynamics involving secrets left unsaid. I strained to listen closer but remained hidden behind curtains drawn tight around emotions exposed too openly already. It wasn't fair eavesdropping, yet curiosity pulled at threads unraveling rapidly around me. What if they knew? What if he knew? "I just wish she'd talk to me," he said quietly, then paused as though waiting for someone's response before continuing again. "I can sense something's off, like she's hiding something." My breath caught in my throat as realization struck hard. I wasn't just navigating feelings alone anymore. This was affecting him too, whether he understood fully or not. And now doubts plagued every decision made thus far. Who truly understood me here? Before long though, guilt washed over me, forcing retreat back indoors where warmth wrapped around skin again, leaving behind chill lingering outside still despite sunshine blazing bright overhead. A reminder life continued even when choices became murky shadows lurking just beyond reach. When we finally set off for our hike later that day, each step taken felt heavier than before. Anticipation mingled with fear clinging tightly around hearts yearning desperately for connection yet burdened by realities looming large ahead, threatening everything held dear. The trail wound through towering trees draped in vibrant greens and earthy browns, a stark contrast against turmoil bubbling beneath surfaces polished bright enough to reflect light without revealing shadows lurking just beyond reach. We walked side by side exchanging stories about childhood adventures while laughter echoed through woods surrounding us, yet every word spoken felt tinged with unacknowledged longing simmering dangerously close beneath surface tension threatening eruption any moment now. And then came those moments where fingers brushed against one another, accidentally sending jolts coursing through veins, igniting sparks left untouched far too long. It wasn't until we reached an overlook revealing breathtaking views stretching endlessly into horizon above, mountains kissed by sunlight washing away doubts clouding minds momentarily, that things shifted once more. Standing there together gazing out into vastness beyond, we shared silence heavy laden with unspoken truths begging release, but instead found ourselves lost within depths unknown exploring territories uncharted. As dusk began settling over landscape painting skies shades fiery orange mixed blues fading slowly into darkness creeping silently closer, I turned toward him searching eyes filled questions unanswered waiting patiently hoping somehow clarity might emerge from chaos swirling all around us. But before anything could be spoken aloud, the world shifted again when footsteps approached behind us breaking spell cast upon moment shared. My husband appeared unexpectedly silhouetted against fading light casting shadows across ground below reminding both of us harsh realities waiting just beyond reach. "What are you two doing up here?" His voice cut through tension thickening air surrounding us instantly shattering fragile facade built carefully moments earlier. The air was thick with unspoken words, the kind that linger long after they've been uttered. My husband stood there, his expression a mix of confusion and concern. I could sense the tension radiating from the stepson beside me, caught in the crossfire of a moment that felt both mundane and monumental. "What are you two doing up here?" he repeated, the question hanging in the air like a heavy fog. I struggled to find an answer that wouldn't betray the truth simmering beneath our surface. "Just enjoying the view," I replied, forcing a casual tone while my heart raced. The mountains loomed large behind us, their majesty contrasting sharply with our fragile reality. My husband stepped closer, searching my face as if it held secrets he needed to uncover. "You know we should head back soon. Dinner's almost ready." His voice was steady but lacked warmth. I nodded absently, my mind still swirling with thoughts of stolen glances and fleeting touches. The weight of this moment pressed down on me, urging me to confront my feelings head-on. But how could I? The very idea of risking everything I had built felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, staring into an abyss. As we made our way back down the trail, I caught sight of my stepson out of the corner of my eye. He walked slightly behind us, his gaze fixed on the ground as if it held answers he couldn't articulate. A part of me wanted to reach out, to bridge the distance that had grown between us in recent days. But another part warned me against it. This was not a path I could traverse without consequence. Dinner was tense, conversations flowed around us like water over rocks, steady but lacking depth. My husband chatted about work while my stepson picked at his food, glancing at me occasionally with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. Each look felt charged with unspoken longing and fear. After dinner, my husband retired to watch television while we cleaned up in silence. The kitchen felt small, almost claustrophobic as we moved around each other, avoiding direct contact yet feeling an electric connection in every shared space. "Can we talk?" My stepson's voice broke through my thoughts as he leaned against the counter beside me. "About what?" I asked cautiously, wiping down a plate more vigorously than necessary. "About everything." His eyes searched mine for understanding. I sighed deeply, everything felt so complicated now. "What do you mean?" He hesitated before speaking again, his voice barely above a whisper. "I can't stop thinking about you." Those words hung between us like a spark waiting for fuel. My heart raced as I considered how far we had come from those innocent moments filled with laughter and stolen glances to this raw admission of desire. "I shouldn't have let things go this far," I admitted quietly, feeling both exhilarated and terrified by our honesty. He stepped closer then, closing the gap that had felt insurmountable just moments before. "But you did," he murmured softly. "And now we have to figure out what it means." The weight of his gaze pulled me in, every breath between us crackled with unacknowledged tension, the kind that had been building since his arrival weeks ago. It was intoxicating yet fraught with danger. "I can't just throw everything away," I whispered desperately as if saying it aloud would somehow make it true. "But are you happy?" His question pierced through the haze enveloping us both. I paused, Happiness felt like an elusive dream slipping further from my grasp each day spent in routine monotony. I don't know anymore. His hand brushed against mine as he reached for a dish towel. Even that light touch ignited something deep within me, a yearning for connection beyond what was permissible or rational. A sudden noise from the living room interrupted our moment, a laugh followed by muffled voices reminding us of reality just outside this fragile bubble we had created together. "We should go back," I said reluctantly and pulled away from him instinctively as if breaking some invisible bond tethering us together too tightly. "Yeah," he replied softly but didn't move immediately. Instead, he lingered for one more second too long before finally stepping back into normalcy, a world where desire remained unacknowledged yet potent enough to alter everything if left unchecked. The next day brought an unexpected visit from family friends who arrived unannounced. Two lively children bouncing through our door with energy that filled every corner of our home while their parents settled into small talk with my husband about local happenings and upcoming events in town. Their presence was both welcome distraction and unwelcome reminder. How could anyone understand what lay beneath this carefully curated facade? Conversations drifted around topics ranging from art festivals to school plays, mundane details overshadowing deeper truths lurking just beneath surface-level interactions among adults who knew nothing about silent yearnings hidden away behind closed doors. As laughter echoed through rooms filled with warmth and familiarity outside pressures mounted inside me, what would happen when they left? Would things return back to normal? Or would unresolved feelings continue festering like wounds left untreated? Later that evening, after everyone departed leaving only echoes behind their footsteps, I found myself alone once again staring out at distant mountains silhouetted against fading twilight sky, wondering how long until darkness descended upon all aspects life entwined within choices made without foresight or clarity. My stepson appeared unexpectedly at my side, breaking silence gently yet firmly grounding reality amidst swirling uncertainties surrounding us both now more than ever. A quiet understanding exchanged between two souls grappling silently alongside one another despite circumstances beyond control shaping paths ahead. "What do you want?" His words hung heavily in air, thickening atmosphere charged once again by emotions barely contained within boundaries established long ago. "I don't know," I admitted, finally feeling vulnerable, stripped bare under scrutiny yet craving honesty above all else at this moment when everything seemed poised on precipice, waiting only for push towards unknown future unfolding rapidly before us both. His gaze softened. There was something profound there, a connection forged not merely through attraction but shared experience, navigating tumultuous waters together, facing fears head-on rather than retreating into shadows cast by choices made long ago. "I think we need to decide," he said, finally breaking silence lingering between us, still heavy laden with implications swirling endlessly around, possibilities stretching infinitely forward beyond reach right now. I hesitated, unsure whether clarity awaited or chaos loomed ahead, threatening everything familiar while tempting exploration into realms unknown, filled promise mingled fear alike. "I'll think about it," came out barely above whisper, lost amidst cacophony surrounding decisions looming large, casting shadows over lives entwined, irrevocably forever changed regardless outcome chosen moving forward. The air in the small living room thickened with unspoken words, each moment stretching out like the shadows cast by the setting sun. My husband, sitting across from me, had just shared his vulnerabilities, layers of himself I had never seen before. I felt a shift within me, a mixture of empathy and confusion swirling together. "I never wanted to be just a provider," he said, his voice low and trembling. "I thought you were happy." The honesty in his words struck me hard. I had been so consumed by my own feelings of neglect that I hadn't considered how he might feel lost too. But this revelation only deepened the turmoil inside me. Could our marriage be salvaged? Or was it too late? "I thought we were fine," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "But maybe we've both been pretending." He nodded slowly, eyes downcast as if contemplating the weight of our years together. "Sometimes it feels like we're just going through the motions." His admission hung in the air, heavy with truth. I took a breath, preparing to dive deeper into this conversation that felt both necessary and terrifying. "Do you remember when we used to talk for hours?" I asked, trying to recall those early days filled with laughter and dreams. "Yes," he replied softly, a hint of nostalgia in his tone. "I miss that." As we exchanged memories, I found myself torn between the past and present. The warmth of those moments contrasted sharply with the chill that had settled over us in recent years. A part of me longed to reach out and bridge the distance that had grown between us. But then there was him, my stepson, who lingered at the edges of my thoughts like an uninvited guest. The tension from our stolen moments played back in my mind like an old film reel: stolen glances during dinner, accidental brushes against each other's skin, fleeting moments that ignited something within me that I couldn't quite name. Suddenly, I heard footsteps approaching from down the hall. My stepson emerged into view, breaking our fragile connection. His expression was unreadable as he glanced between us. "Hey," he said casually but with a tension underlying his words. I felt my heart race at his presence. It was as if he could sense the charged atmosphere lingering from our earlier conversation. My husband shifted slightly in his seat, clearly aware of how this moment could shift everything. "Can we talk?" my stepson asked hesitantly. I exchanged glances with my husband before nodding slowly. "Sure." We moved to the kitchen table where light filtered through the window, casting soft shadows on our faces. As we sat down together, an air of uncertainty enveloped us all. "I've been thinking," he paused, searching for words as if weighing their importance carefully before speaking them aloud. "About what's been happening lately." A knot formed in my stomach. I could sense where this was going but hoped against hope it wouldn't tread into dangerous waters. "I don't want things to be weird between us," he continued cautiously. "But I can't ignore what happened." My breath caught in my throat as memories flooded back, the kiss shared under moonlight and those lingering touches that sent shivers down my spine. "We kissed," echoed through my mind like a mantra, reminding me of boundaries crossed and lines blurred beyond recognition. "I know," I finally managed to say after what felt like an eternity passed between us, filled only by silence thick enough to slice through with a knife. His gaze locked onto mine. There was no denying the intensity simmering beneath it all, a mix of fear and longing mirrored back at me from those familiar eyes. "I don't want to hurt anyone," he confessed quietly but firmly, now as if reclaiming some semblance of control over chaos threatening to consume everything around us. My heart raced again, not just from fear but also from something else entirely, a flicker of excitement igniting deep within me despite everything else swirling around us like storm clouds gathering overhead ready for release at any moment now. "What do you want?" My voice trembled slightly as I posed this question, carefully knowing full well its implications could lead us down paths we might not return from easily if at all. He inhaled deeply before answering. "I want honesty, whatever that looks like for all three of us." The weight behind those words lingered heavily in the air, a truth demanding confrontation rather than avoidance, a call for clarity amidst confusion threatening to unravel everything familiar within moments if not addressed properly now. A sudden rush coursed through me, a mix of dread intermingled with exhilaration. This wasn't simply about attraction anymore. It was about acknowledging feelings long buried beneath layers upon layers built up over time within relationships strained almost beyond recognition, due largely because neither party dared confront them until now. As silence descended again upon us both, my husband shifting uncomfortably beside me, I realized how pivotal this moment truly was. It could redefine everything moving forward or tear apart what little remained intact already. Before another word could escape either one of our lips, however, a loud knock echoed through our home, pulling everyone's attention toward its source, abruptly jolting us back into reality once more. "What now?" my husband muttered under his breath while glancing toward front door where unexpected visitors loomed large beyond threshold, waiting impatiently outside, unaware they stood on brink, altering course set forth previously without even realizing consequences looming ahead. My heart sank deeper, still knowing full well whatever awaited beyond would inevitably impact choices made here tonight. And as uncertainty gripped hold tighter than ever before, I couldn't shake feeling fate had already begun weaving threads intertwining lives forever changed regardless outcome chosen moving forward. The festival lights twinkled against the backdrop of the mountains, casting a warm glow over the bustling streets of Asheville. The air was thick with laughter, music, and the scent of roasted corn. Yet, amidst the vibrant energy, my heart felt heavy with uncertainty. I stood at the edge of the crowd, watching families and friends connect in ways I had longed for but felt distant from. As I walked through the stalls filled with handmade crafts and local artwork, my mind drifted back to moments shared in secret, those stolen glances and fleeting touches that had ignited a fire within me. The weight of what had transpired hung heavily in the air. My thoughts were interrupted by familiar laughter. It was my husband and stepson standing together near a booth selling handmade pottery. Their camaraderie seemed effortless, a stark contrast to my inner turmoil. "Look at this one," my husband said, holding up a small vase adorned with intricate designs. "What do you think?" "Looks great," his son replied, grinning widely. "You have a good eye for these things." I could hear their voices but felt miles away. The warmth of their bond reminded me of what I once cherished in our family dynamic, a connection that now felt strained and distant. I forced myself to smile as I approached them, but inside I was grappling with emotions that threatened to spill over. "Hey there," I said, trying to inject some enthusiasm into my voice. "Join us. We're picking out something special for your art corner," my husband said cheerfully. I nodded and glanced at the vase he held up. It was beautiful, but it felt like a symbol of everything I had lost, beauty overshadowed by neglect. "I think it'll look nice next to your paintings," he added, his eyes shining with excitement. "Sure," I replied absent-mindedly, my gaze drifting back to my stepson who was now examining another piece nearby. The way he studied each item with such intensity captivated me. It reminded me of how deeply he cared about art and life, a quality that drew me in even more. As we moved from stall to stall, I felt an unspoken tension building between us all, the three of us caught in this web woven from shared history and unacknowledged desires. Each time our eyes met, there was an electric charge that sent shivers down my spine. It was as if we were living in two worlds at once, one filled with familial love and another cloaked in secrecy. Suddenly, amidst the laughter and chatter around us, my stepson turned towards me with an earnest expression on his face. "You know," he began hesitantly, "I've always admired how passionate you are about your art." His words struck a chord deep within me, a reminder of who I used to be before life's routines dulled my spirit. "Thank you," I managed to say, feeling warmth spread through me at his compliment. "Maybe we could paint together sometime?" "Just us," he suggested casually but with an underlying sincerity. Caught off guard by his proposal, I hesitated before responding. "That sounds nice." A flicker of hope ignited within me, a chance to reclaim a part of myself that had been buried under years of complacency. Before I could dwell on it further, we were interrupted by the sound of music drifting through the air, a local band setting up for their performance nearby. The crowd began to gather closer as excitement built around them. "Let's go check it out," my husband exclaimed enthusiastically. As we made our way toward the stage area, I couldn't shake off the feeling that this festival represented more than just a community gathering. It symbolized possibilities, new beginnings waiting just around the corner if only I dared to reach for them. But as we settled onto a patch of grass near the stage, enjoying the vibrant atmosphere around us, doubt crept back into my mind like an unwelcome guest. Could anything truly change? Would stepping outside this comfort zone lead only to chaos? The music began playing softly, a gentle melody that resonated deep within me, and as people started dancing around us without care or inhibitions, something shifted inside me again. It felt liberating yet terrifying all at once, a whirlwind threatening to sweep me away from everything familiar. And then came an unexpected twist, during one particularly upbeat song. As couples swayed together under twinkling lights, my stepson reached out his hand toward mine without thinking twice about it. "Dance?" he asked simply, his eyes sparkling with mischief. I hesitated again but found myself nodding slowly as if drawn into an invisible current pulling us closer together amidst swirling colors and sounds surrounding us both. As we stood up together under those twinkling lights, our hands clasped tightly, it felt like crossing an invisible line, one foot still grounded in reality while another took flight toward something unknown yet alluringly tempting. We began moving together rhythmically, the world fading away until only we existed in this moment suspended between desire and restraint. But just then, a sudden commotion erupted from behind us. Shouts rang out amidst laughter turning frantic as someone stumbled forward through the crowd. My heart raced as panic surged through everyone surrounding us. It was chaos breaking loose right where we stood. "What's happening?" My husband shouted above rising voices while instinctively reaching for me, but before he could pull me back into safety. My stepson turned sharply toward him, his expression shifting from playful joy to something darker. In that instant everything unraveled, tension snapped like a taut string pulled too tight, leaving uncertainty hanging heavily over our heads like storm clouds ready to burst. And just like that, I found myself standing between two worlds, one filled with love yet suffocating familiarity, another beckoning towards wild possibilities but fraught with perilous consequences. The festival continued around us, but all at once, it no longer mattered.